It's Dean, and I want to tell you about the marketing lessons I learned in 2022 spending $10,969.79 on Facebook ads. The first thing was keep the traffic on Facebook. Don't try to send it out to landing pages or ClickFunnels or anything else like that. Now, this is just what I learned. I'm not telling you what to do. But as far as sending traffic off Facebook, we had a way higher cost per everything when we tried to send it off Facebook. When we kept it on Facebook and just used the Facebook lead forms, they worked really, really well. Just make sure to put the same effort into the lead form, the actual form that you'd put into like a landing page. So actually make sure it's written out nicely. I know it's short, but that had a massive effect for us. Learn More worked way better than Get a Quote for our Facebook ads. We had 60% higher click-through rate. Our CPC was 47% cheaper. Our CPM was 12% cheaper. And we basically just worked better overall. Test, iterate, and kill low performers fast. Make sure you're testing stuff constantly, always running tests, which I'll talk about in a second. Then make sure you're killing low performers quickly, because we've had tons of ads that have worked really, really well immediately and tons of ads that have underperformed immediately. But there's no reason to run ads for weeks and weeks, forget you're even running them, and then all of a sudden you come back, you're like, oh no, I've wasted a bunch of money, which sucks. And then people are like, oh, Facebook doesn't work. Like, no, you just don't work. Seasonality is super important, because for our business, landscaping, if we're marketing at the wrong season, we're going to get no leads. If we're marketing for lawn mowing in the middle of winter, we're going to get almost no leads. It's going to be super expensive. Now, the same thing happens throughout the year. We don't have the luxury in our business of just running the same ads season after month after month after month, because the seasons go up and down. That's why it's really important to test and iterate really quickly and redo your ads very, very frequently and test stuff week after week after week after week, because we don't have that long before our mowing ads stop converting and we have to switch over to another pressure washing ads, or before we can do fall cleanup ads, and then we have to switch to plowing ads. So you have to make sure that you're focusing on the seasonality. And here's an example of that, which is when we started doing our fall cleanup ads, we had a really low cost per lead. It was around $60. As the season went on and we tested other stuff, and some did better, some did worse, it kept creeping up. Even though we were getting better at our ads, over time they were all just creeping up. No matter how much better we made the ads, just because it was getting out of that season. We flipped to Christmas light season, we had like $16 cost per lead. So it was like super cheap initially. And then those once again started to creep up over time, even though we were getting better at the ads and they were all doing better, they were just slightly creeping up over time. So one important thing as well is for us to we save the ads that did well, so we can start with a leg up next year. Always be testing. This kind of goes back to what I said, the test and iterate, but always be testing an A/B test. There's zero reason to ever run an ad with just one ad. It's like, you're not learning anything. Why are you spending money, wasting money, and not learning? Like, I don't care if you get new customers, you're not learning how to advertise, for me. So what we do now is every single ad we run has an A/B component to it. Even if it's something small, even if it's just changing the headline a little bit, or adding something else in the copy, or whatever it looks like, it's just a different photo, even if it's just a different thumbnail on the video. Follow up like crazy. This is something that we failed at initially and was just terrible. So we learned that we need to follow up like 11 times in the first 3 days, I think is what Hormozi says. But we now follow up. As soon as somebody fills out a lead form, we call them. If they don't answer, we send them an email and a text. And then the next day we call them, email, text. Then the next day we call them, then the next day we email them, then call them, and then email them and close their account. Or close their lead. We have to make sure you're following up like crazy, because you don't just want to send those leads in the toilet if you're not doing that. Headlines and copy are way more important than the photo and the video. We ran 2 ads with the same photos, same headlines, and different copy. One had a 3 times cheaper lead acquisition cost, or cost per lead, than the other ad, and that was the only difference we ran in those 2 ads. Same audience, same everything else. So that proved to us that copy matters more than everything. And another thing that I'll talk about later, which is that it doesn't matter what the photo and video is as much as the copy matters. So the copy matters more than anything. But for right now, headline and copy must match the offer. We ran an ad one time that said, here's a crazy trick to make your landscaper call you back. And people were clicking on it like it was an article. They wanted to read a crazy trick. Now the ad was written in like an article form, but our solve to get your landscaper to call you back was to call us, which I don't think was clear in what they were looking for. And so they came into it, but then never converted because it wasn't what they were looking for. So it didn't match. And that might not be the best example of this, but just make sure your copy and your headline and your offer all match together, as well as what you have on your lead form. Call out who you want in the ad. When we call out, hey Doylestown, which is the area we're in, or hey homeowners, or hey property owners, or hey people with lawns, whatever you want to say, the ads do way better than the ads that we didn't call anybody out. And, it wasn't being specific to somebody. Even if we said, hey, Doylestown homeowners, is another step to that, or anything in that realm worked way better. Starting with short sentences. I believe this is another thing I learned from Hormozi, but when we started an ad with a very short sentence, the ads worked way better. And an example of that is we had a 33% cheaper cost per lead when we used a short sentence at the beginning, and that was it. Everything else was the exact same, just wanted a short sentence to bring it in, like a Hey Doylestown, or that's not a good example of it, but I'm trying to think of the ad. I can't think of the exact ad, what it was, but just starting with a very short sentence of like 2, 3, 4, 5 words gets somebody into the copy because it's easier to read than if I start out with this, massive long run-on sentence like I tend to write sometimes. Entertaining photo and video is way more important than having it be informative. Like I said before, the photo and the video doesn't matter as much for us. We've run a bunch of ads that have very, very similar lead acquisition costs, whether I'm recording, just jumping around in the rain, hanging out, or it's a very, very informative video where I'm actually selling in the video. What matters more for us is the copy and then just making sure it's entertaining. Now look, I'm sure if you posted a video of just like some stripes on a lawn, nobody cares about lawn stripes. Let me just tell you, very, very few customers care about lawn stripes, so nobody's gonna click on the ad. But as long as it's relatively interesting or intriguing, or it's an interesting photo, video, thumbnail, people are gonna click on it and they're gonna want to see what you're talking about, and that's where the copy and the headline actually has to sell them. So that was what we learned with the photos and videos. At the end of the day, though, for us, good copy and headlines are the most important thing in the entire ad. That's the biggest thing I learned this year, we probably ran over 100 tests over the course of this year. And the other thing I learned is follow up like crazy and try to make it as easy as possible to schedule an appointment, because once there's zero reason to spend any money in marketing if you're not going to follow up and you're not going to actually try to convert the leads on the back end. Let me know if you guys learned anything else while marketing this year that I missed in this list, because I'm always trying to get better. So thank you so much for watching and have a fantastic rest of your day. See ya.